सभी बच्चे एक साथ एक ही प्लेटफॉर्म पर समझते हैं और जानते हैं। आप सभी अपने टेलीविज़न स्क्रीन्स पर देख पा रहे हैं हमारी साइन लैंग्वेज इंटरप्रेटर। इनका नाम है मिस उदया हसीजा मैम। ये पूरे सत्र को साइन लैंग्वेज के माध्यम से बताएंगी। So dear students and learners, our today's topic is dance movement therapy, and to discuss on this topic our expert is Miss Mrunmayee Kulkarni ma'am. Welcome ma'am. Namaskar. Yes ma'am, you are welcome in our session teaching learning intervention for inclusive classrooms. Ma'am, yes, thank you ma'am, welcome. Ma'am is a dance movement psychotherapist. So ma'am will tell you about this topic, and you can send your feedback, your queries through our various medium. You can call us on our phone number, that is 8800440559, and you can also email us. The email ID is flashing on your television screens. You can note it. And one more medium where you can drop your messages, your questions, your queries, that is ncertofficial. We are proud that India assumed the G20 presidency and will convene the G20 Leaders Summit for the first time in the country in 2023. A nation deeply committed to democracy and multilateralism, India G20 presidency would be a watershed moment in our history, as it seeks to play a very important role by finding pragmatic global solution for the well-being of all, and in doing so manifest the true spirit of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, or the world is one family. आइए शुरुआत करते हैं, आगाज़ करते हैं इस सत्र का टीचिंग लर्निंग इंटरवेंशन फॉर इंक्लूसिव क्लासरूम्स, एंड वी मूव टू अवर एक्सपर्ट मृण्मयी कुलकर्णी मैम. Ma'am, my very first question is, what is dance movement therapy?
Thank you for the question, ma'am, and thank you for having me here. It's an honor. To answer the question of what is dance movement therapy comes under the broad umbrella of the term creative arts therapies, which is a very new modality under the field of psychotherapy. Dance movement therapy works on the principle that the body and the mind are connected. So this means that whatever I am experiencing in my surrounding will not only be stored at the cognitive level of my brain, but it will also be experienced in my body, and it will also be stored in my body. So as a dance movement psychotherapist or a dance movement therapist, I will encourage the person to use their body as a tool to express these various experiences and to process them and resolve all the feelings that they are having about these experiences. So to break down the two words, dance and movement, as a culture and as a society, India has always used dance in a therapeutic way. If we look at all our traditional dance forms like Kathak, Bharatnatyam, or any other dance form, we will see that it is primarily about expressing a story or communicating a message. Also, if we look at the folk dances in India like Garba or Bhangra or the Kodi Nrutya in Maharashtra, we will see that it is a lot about community building and bringing people together. So while we see that dance itself is very therapeutic, when we talk about movement, we can see that movement is the very basic sign of life. So movement is something that has started even before birth. We can see that the health of the fetus is measured by movement. We can see that even after birth, when the child starts to cry and the child starts the breast crawl, the development of the child is again assessed and measured through movement. So we can see how movement is a very, very natural form of expression. So coming to what I said about dance movement therapy, it is founded on the principle that movement will show how I feel and relate to others. So it is the language that the body is going to use to understand and express inner thoughts and feelings.
how can dance movement therapy help children with special needs? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So, when we talk about children with special needs, this could be someone with a learning disability, this could be someone on the autism spectrum, someone with ADHD, someone with any neurodivergent characteristics. So, we can broadly categorize the challenges that a child with special needs may face in two parts. One would be the physical challenge that the person is facing, the second could be the emotional challenge.
Us, our session is teaching learning intervention.
Yeah, can I continue?
Yes, ma'am. You can continue.
So when we talk about the physical challenges that a child with special needs may face, we can talk about limited attention span. It could be a lack of body awareness or a lack of body boundaries. And it could also be a difficulty in coordination. So between the different body parts, I find it difficult to coordinate, which means that my hands and my legs may not move in coordination. It might also mean that when I'm reading, my eyes and my hands, or when I'm writing, my eyes and my hands are not moving in coordination. So there could be all these physical difficulties. When you talk about the emotional difficulties, one of the major problems that a child with special needs might face is social integration. The child might be very isolated because of a particular condition that they are facing. They may find it very difficult to be in an inclusive school or to make friends. Similarly, they might have difficulty forming emotional relationships because if their emotional expression is not being vented, it would be very difficult to make an emotional connection. So we can always see that children with special needs may find it difficult to even bond with family members or to make friends at school. And the third situation that might happen with children with special needs is they might have difficulty expressing their needs. Now, very often what we see is that language can be a big barrier in communication, which means that because the child might be non-verbal, because of the cognitive delay that they might have, they might find it difficult to express themselves. But this does not mean that they do not have emotions or that they do not have feelings. Now, as we can see, the beautiful lady on the screen who is interpreting what I am saying for us, we can see that she is doing it all non-verbally, which means that she is not using verbal language, but she is using gestures, movements, maybe her lips are syncing to what I am speaking or to the language that she is demonstrating. So she is using all these non-verbal means of communication. So similarly, dance movement therapy can offer all these options of communicating through dance, music, props, art forms, any option that the child is most comfortable with, which means that the child does not necessarily have to express through verbal language, but they can express themselves through moving in the space, through creating a drawing, making a painting, playing a certain musical instrument in a mood that they are feeling. All these options are open to the child. Similarly, once this primary communication has started, what the child can then start doing is exploring different concepts. So while we're wanting to teach a value education lesson of, say, how do I take turns, how do I share, how do I wait for my turn when I'm in a group, rather than just saying this or trying to make the child understand it at a cognitive level, what a dance movement therapist would do would be to give the child an opportunity to be in a space and to use movement while they are working in a group to experience all of these concepts in their body. So if I can give an example, let's say that I'm working with a group of children with special needs. I might have with me a ribbon or a bell. I might pass it on to the next person, which means that now it's not with this child, it's with the next child. The child can follow the ribbon as it is going across the room. While the ribbon is going around, the child is experiencing in the body what it is to wait. Eventually, when the ribbon comes back to the child will experience what it is like to finish the waiting period and have the ribbon again. Similarly, a lot of the other concepts can also be explored in this very movement-based format. Now, coming to the physical element that a child might face difficulty with, we can see that children with special needs might have a lack of body boundary or lack of body awareness. So, we can see how while they are running, they might bang into furniture, or they might just fall over someone, or they might not be able to sit straight while they are studying or while they are waiting. Now, this is going to happen because they might have a basic lack of the body awareness itself. So again, instead of just verbally telling the child to sit straight, what a dance movement therapist would do would be to start working with their body. It could start with supporting their back. It could start with holding their hands. While they're doing that, the child is slowly going to start defining their body. So my body right now is defined against the chair on which I am sitting. My hands are on the table. My body versus your body. All of these distinctions will slowly start becoming clear to me. Once I can start identifying my body, which means this is my hand, it starts here and it ends here. Now your hand starts. Once I'm able to make this distinction between my hand and your hand, automatically what will happen is I will start making the distinction between me as a person versus you as a person. What the next step will be is once I've realized I am a different person and you are a different person, I will be able to then start communicating with you as you versus me. This is going to start the relationship that I will form with every other individual in my environment. Once, for example, I've made this relationship with my therapist, then I can make it with my teacher. Then I can make it with the other children in the classroom. Gradually, I'll start making this relationship with everything that is in my environment. So when we say about children with special needs that they might be in their own world, or they might be very reserved or very withdrawn, or they don't want to look up, they don't want to interact with people, these problems can start slowly getting solved once they start realizing that I exist against you, against the chair, against the bag, and so I can start forming these relationships with you. So automatically, I'll just read out what we said over here on the screen. So I'm having non-verbal communication. I'm having examples like having props, having music, having rhythm, having different paintings, drawings. So I'm using non-verbal creative movement ideas. I'm also increasing my body awareness through the awareness that I have in my surroundings. As I'm doing all of this, I'm able to boost my confidence naturally because I'm interacting with people in my environment.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, how can a physical trainer incorporate dance movement therapy, ma'am?
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what a dance movement therapy session would typically look like. So a dance movement therapy session could happen in groups or in a one-on-one setting. In a group, it could mean working with children who are maybe 4, 5 children in a group. They could usually be having a certain kind of, let's say, a difficulty or a cognitive challenge, which means that I might want to work with children who are on the autism spectrum, maybe, or children who have Down syndrome, or children who have cerebral palsy. So I would make a group of students that I want to work with, or I could work with individual clients on a one-on-one basis. Sometimes you can see that children are not ready to work in a group. So the first step of it might be working with them on an individual basis. Once they've made that connection with the therapist, I can then bring them into the group, which means a larger space and a larger interaction. So a dance movement therapy session would begin with a check-in. What a check-in is basically me coming in and saying what I am feeling. So, am I feeling right now happy? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling disturbed? I may not be able to say this, but I may be able to show it. Now, for a child, how would I show it? I can show it through gestures, through movement, as ma'am is doing right now. I could use emojis, so I could use smiley cards to say, what is it that you are feeling right now? The important thing is for the child to make the connection between this is the emotion that I am feeling right now, which means that when I meet you, I feel happy, and so I'm smiling. This is happy. I feel happy when I meet you, I eat chocolate, I go to the park. Versus I feel sad when it's time to go home from school, it's time to do homework or anything else. So I start with this check-in of what am I feeling right now. Then we move to the physical aspect, which is the warm-up. Again, instead of just saying stand in a straight line, we're going to walk around the room. What the therapist can do is bring stories into this. Trains, for example. Instead of just standing in a line and walking around, let's make a train. Let's make the sound of a train. Who wants to be the leader in the train? A train is something that the child knows, the child has seen it. So they're able to make that train. Automatically, everyone is standing in line and they're walking around the room. Maybe they're running around the room. Another example of this is instead of just doing exercise movements of let's put our hands up, let's bend down, let's make our bodies big, let's make our bodies small, what I can in fact do is bring in the concept of animals. So can I maybe embody an animal? How does monkey look? How does a monkey walk? How does a tortoise walk? How does a tortoise look? How does a horse run? Does it gallop? Does it skip? Does it run fast, slow? I can actually make the child do all of this. Along with this, I can make the child have sounds of the animals. So what's the sound of an elephant? What's the sound of a horse? When I'm bringing in all these creative movement ideas, the child is going to be able to relate more and more to what the exercise is, and hence do it better and understand it better in their own body. And then just that last part of the check out. So one of the very important modalities that dance movement therapy uses is the concept of mindfulness. So mindfulness is the very basic idea of being present in the here and now. Just an example of this is I'm here right now. I'm sitting in front of the laptop. I am feeling nice, comfortable. The chair is comfortable and I'm having this interaction. I'm aware of it. A child with special needs may not be very aware of their immediate surrounding, immediate environment, and their emotions. So what dance movement therapy is doing is helping the child become aware of this environment, which means right now I'm feeling happy. I'm also feeling hungry. Now I'm feeling a bit sad because it's time to go home and I'm going to miss my friends. So dance movement therapy is going to give the child the opportunity to express what is going on in the moment and not necessarily wait for words, so the cognitive processing to come to them and then express it. Now, what any physical trainer or what any teacher, in fact, in any school setting can do is keep being aware and keep being on the lookout of children who might be more comfortable expressing themselves non-verbally, or children who prefer to be alone, children who seem to be a little bit withdrawn, children who seem to be a little bit reserved. Once the person, the physical trainer or any teacher in school has identified such people, what might work best is to then use this language with them, the language that they are comfortable with, which means that the teacher could try and be maybe more gestural when she's talking to them. If the teacher realizes that there is a cognitive delay in the child's processing or in the child's speed of processing, what the teacher can do is use minimal words, maximum gestures, and very simple instructions. So if I can give an example of this, rather than saying a lot of sentences or a lot of words to a group of children who might have special needs, the teacher might just make it very crisp, very slow, and very pronounced and say, now we sit. And instead of just saying it, what the teacher could also have side by side is what ma'am is doing, is to also sign and to also signal the action of sitting. What will also help additionally is, along with the signing, if the teacher can actually sit, so that the child is also visually seeing what sitting means. If the child starts shouting, if the child is talking very loudly, instead of just saying, keep quiet, which again is a cognitive function which the child may have a difficulty understanding, the teacher might herself soften her volume. Maybe the teacher can also bring her hand here to say, now let's talk softly, and also whisper it herself, so that the child also experiences what it is to hear this volume and then this volume. Then the child makes the mental connection of, okay, this is what is called having a low volume. Another thing that the teacher or any instructor in a school could do would be to have dichotomous thinking or dichotomous communication. As an example of this, a child with special needs might find it very difficult to answer abstract questions like, what did you do yesterday? Or what do you like to do when you're on vacation? These questions could be very difficult for a child. Instead, what do you want to do now? Do you want to do painting or dancing? Do you want to play with ball or ribbon? When the child can see these things in front of them, they are going to be able to understand better what is going on. This is going to also help them in their choice making. So the child will not get overwhelmed with the cognitive questions, but they will understand what the object is in front of them and be able to make a clear choice. So these are all the different ways in which any teacher in any school setting can help a child with special needs.
Thank you, ma'am. Very informative. Ma'am, I want to ask how to use dance movement therapy in counseling. Please explain in very short, ma'am.
Yes. So when I'm working in a counseling setting, let's say I'm working in a school that a child is being bullied at, what I can do is again use props, use movement so that the child can express in a non-verbal way how they are feeling. So they could use dolls, they could use ribbons to show how they are feeling isolated. Similarly, I can use props to just make a connection with the child. So like you can see here, Lego blocks. Let's say that the child does not want to interact with me directly. So I come in as the counselor. I give the child a set of playthings. I myself have a set of playthings. We both are doing things separately. We're both using props. Slowly, what I can start doing is maybe let's do it together. Similarly, if the child is sitting in their tent in a school and I'm just not allowed into that tent, then what I can do is have my own tent. The child is singing their own song, making their own Lego blocks in their tent. I'm doing it in my tent. Very slowly, with the help of these props, I'm going to be able to start making a connection with the child. So what I'm doing, in fact, as the dance movement therapist, is I'm going into the child's world. I'm making the child get comfortable with me in that world. And then very slowly and very gently, I'm going to pull the child into my world, which means I'm going to make the child ready to become aware of their surroundings and interact with the larger community.
Yes, Murmai ma'am, thank you so very much for this beautiful session, for providing so much of information to our students and learners on dance movement therapy, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Udaya ma'am. And thank you, dear learners and students. NCERT textbooks for 2023-24 are available throughout the country, and these textbooks may be purchased directly from the NCERT sale counters located at New Delhi, Ahmedabad, Bengaluru and Guwahati. These sale counters will be functional on all the weekdays included gazetted holidays, Saturdays, Sundays from 9:30 am to 6 pm. And you may also place order for the books online from our website ncertbooks.ncert.gov.in, and these books will be delivered at your doorstep without any delivery charges. And if you want the soft copy of the books in PDF version, you can also download it for free from our website ncert.nic.in. So dear students and learners, please visit our website ncert.nic.in to know more about the authorized vendor. और इसी के साथ हमारा आज का जो ये सत्र था टीचिंग लर्निंग इंटरवेंशन फॉर इंक्लूसिव क्लासरूम हम यही संपन्न करते हैं। लेकिन आप कहीं मत जाइए, आप बने रहिए ई-विद्या चैनल पर, देखते रहिए NCERT ऑफिशियल बहुत सारे रोचक और ज्ञानवर्धक सत्र के लिए। और आप अपना ख्याल रखिए, हमें दीजिए इजाज़त, नमस्कार।